بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. We continue, I think this is our third session in looking at the agenda to change our condition. This is the latest edition of the book, came out a few years ago. It's available on Amazon. I generally do try to encourage people to read. Part of learning is to read. Not getting on the YouTube and listening to a video or watching a video, reading. Iqra, the first revelation comes down to read. Not to say that you can't watch and listen, but reading is really important. That's one thing. And second thing is to read books that are written well. Some of the books that Muslims produce about Islam are shoddy and second-rate and shouldn't be allowed in the market. Even if it's translated from some scholar into, if it's translated from the works of a scholar and it's translated into English. As I said before, let the English be good. That represents the work and the standard of the scholar. We need to really encourage each other and encourage those translators, those booksellers and book publishers and the business people who are behind this to make sure that they produce works that are of high quality and good standard, so that they reflect the intellectual scholarly tradition of Islam. If we want to take the works of the great scholars and bring them and pull them down to the Daily Mirror level or the Sun level, you're in the wrong religion. Okay? We don't do that. Rather, what we try to do is we ask Allah to raise us up to begin to understand that level, or some of the flavors and some of the illuminations from that level. The Islamic tradition is about raising our standards, not dragging everything around us to our low standards. The deen comes to transform. So please do try to get the book, so that one, we can together read it, and two, a lot of good effort has gone into it, and it deserves to be brought. And to spend money on good perfume, to spend money on good books. This is something that the Islamic tradition and Sharia generally praises. But to spend money on, let me up my Sky subscription or Virgin subscription to Premier level or whatever, we have no qualms about that. But I tell you, this book is $9.99. I mean, I can't remember what it is, but I'm just saying it is $9.99. Oh, that's a bit expensive. We can get books for $3.50. Well, books for $3.50, you probably get $3.50's worth. Shoddy translation and shoddy English. So there are many attitudes we need to change towards ilm, towards knowledge. So please do try to get the book. And also it's from the etiquettes that if we can, we try to have the book and we try to make notes, our own notes in the atraf, in the margins, in the marginalia, or somewhere nice, or a separate notebook to make notes that, we're going through the book called Agenda to Change Our Condition, and these are the notes that I was making. So that little notes help us understand and remember, because most of us, we can listen to something, but we quite easily forget it. And the idea is to give the importance of ilm, give the ilm its due. The book deals with many aspects, all about taqwa, piety and mindfulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a chapter, exercises for attaining taqwa in prayer, taqwa of the eyes, taqwa of the ears, limbs. There are some translations from extracts from the great Imams like Imam Nawawi and Sheikh Ahmad Zarruq, rahimahumullah. Chapter 3 is what we're going through, practical steps to change our condition. Chapter 2 is the heart and its treatment, purification of the heart and its treatment. So there's a lot of great blessings in this book. We're going through chapter 3, practical steps to change our condition as individuals and our condition as an ummah. And it doesn't need great elaboration that once upon a time we were ummah, very blessed, the great dignity and honor, and we were makers of history, we were the subjects of history. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us grace and tawfiq. And the ummah, we were able to achieve great things and many things. Give nur, light and guidance by the grace of Allah to so many reaches of the globe. And today we are an ummah that the majority Muslim countries generally represent the least developed countries, the greatest illiteracy in many of our Muslim countries. And the scholastic level, the level of ilm, has greatly reduced. There is in our countries, especially in the majority Muslim Middle Eastern countries, great violence and instability and insecurity, and we can always blame other people. There's always someone or some people to blame other than ourselves. But when we look at the Quran itself, throughout the Quran, whenever calamities happen to Muslims, especially as a group, as a collective, then the Quran is always pointing the blame, not at the ones at whose hands the calamity actually happened, the worldly calamity happened, the enemies of the Ummah, the enemies of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But قُلْ هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ أَنفُسِكُمْ, say it's from yourselves. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Never does Allah change the condition of the people until they change what is in themselves. مَا أَصَابَكُم مِّنْ حَسَنَةٍ فَمِنَ اللَّهِ وَمَا أَصَابَكُم مِّنْ سَيِّئَةٍ فَلنَفْسِهِ. Whatever good comes to you, it's from Allah. Whatever calamity befalls you, it's from your own selves. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, إِذَا تَبَايَأْتُمْ بِالْعِينَ فأخذتم أذناب البقر ورضيتم بالزرع وتركتم الجهاد سلط الله عليكم ظلا لا ينزعه عنكم حتى ترجعوا إلى دينكم. When you deal in Ina and hold fast to the tails of the cows and you content yourself with farming and you abandon striving in Allah's path, Allah will permit your humiliation, and He will not lift this humiliation from you حتى ترجعوا إلى دينكم, until you return back to your religion, practicing your religion. The Quran says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن تنصروا الله ينصركم ويثبت أقدامكم. Oh, you believe, if you help Allah, Allah will help you and establish your feet firmly. Meaning, if you act upon what Allah has commanded you with, Allah will help you against your enemies. Act upon that which Allah has commanded you with is exactly the same meaning of the Prophet ﷺ saying, حَتَّى تَرْجُوا إِلَى دِينِكُمْ, until you return back to practicing your religion. I mean, literally it is until you turn back to your religion. It's not saying become Muslims, because we're already Muslims, alhamdulillah. It means do what the believers are meant to be doing in terms of fulfilling Allah's commands and avoiding His prohibitions. And so we spoke about that at length in the first majlis, how the change that is required, that we so badly want for our own individual betterment and the betterment of the Muslim Ummah, it's not going to come about through wishful thinking or through criticizing others. It's going to come about by us undertaking profound and personal changes in our lives. And the more that we change as individuals, then the more that the Ummah as a whole begins to change. Because the Ummah, after all, is what? Is composed of individuals. If the individual links in the Ummah are weak, then the chain is weak. If the individual links in the chain, which we call the Ummah, is strong, then the chain is strong. So it's about that individual transformation, such that when there are enough people that have walked the path of taqwa and Allah is pleased with, then the change that Allah has promised we will begin to see it in the world, in our lives. How many people need to change? There's no set number. It happens when it will happen, but we need to work on the change. And so what these two sheikhs did, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, Sheikh Imam Zayd Shakir, Hafidhahumullah, they wrote down some 20 points of practical steps to change our condition. And the first one was, which we covered last week, the 5 pillars. Form a serious study group to learn the 5 pillars properly and thoroughly. Not just, oh, I know how to pray. But actually, many people, as I said, sometimes don't realize, for example, one of the conditions of prayer is dukhulul waqt, prayer time needs to have come in. We can't pray intentionally before the time, and we can't pray intentionally after the time. And there are some people who sometimes don't know, well, when is the time? Okay, so we need to learn at least the 4 pillars of practice: prayer, salah, zakat, sawm and hajj, prayer, zakat, fasting and pilgrimage thoroughly. And then we move on to the next obligations, like buying, selling, marriage and divorce, tajweed, learning to recite the Quran that much that at least our prayer can be recited properly, at least. That's also an obligation. Huquq and mas'uliyat, we have rights and responsibilities. Some of them are obligatory. So I need to know, what are my obligatory rights and responsibilities that I owe people? This is obligatory knowledge, and this is the meaning of the Prophet ﷺ saying, "Talabul ilmi faridatan ala kulli muslim." The seeking of knowledge is compulsory upon every Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ told us something about the nature of this religion. In a Sahih hadith, he said, "Inna hadha deenul mateen fa'awghilu fihi birifq." Indeed, this religion is strong, is mateen, powerful. فَأَوْغِلُوا فِيهِ بِرِفْقٍ. So go through it gently. Go through it softly. And one of the meanings that the scholars take from this hadith is that when we learn religious knowledge, it's important not to learn it all in one go. The scholars say cramming knowledge into the hearing causes understanding to be lost. And they say, he who learns knowledge all in one go will lose it all in one go. Because there is only so much we can take in at any one given time. Otherwise we become bloated with knowledge. And when you have that feeling of bloatedness, there's no sweetness in the food that you've eaten. You just overeaten. We can overeat in terms of knowledge. So, this knowledge, this religion is strong. فَأَوْغِلُوا فِيهِ بِرِفْقٍ. Go through it gently. It means learn religious knowledge bit-tadarruj, step by step. Starting with the basic, essential things, then moving on to the next essential, then moving on to the next essential, in accordance with the manhaj, the methodology that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself has told us. In the Hadith Qudsi, the Prophet ﷺ said that Allah said, "My servant doesn't draw closer to me with anything more beloved to me than the obligatory duties that I have enjoined on him. My servant doesn't draw closer to me with anything more beloved to me than the obligatory duties, the fara'id. And then my servant draws closer to me through the nawafil, the optional deeds, until I love him." So, the methodology is make sure we learn the obligations upon us. And then we move on. And some of those obligations, I think one of the devil's deceptions is sometimes we feel that we've learned, but what more is there in this matter to learn? But actually, it's sad to say, but there are grown Muslims, even sometimes with outward trimmings of we look the part with the beard, whatever, but actually we don't know that actually maybe removing excess hair from the private parts, armpits and private parts, this is a requirement, generally within 40 days. I mean, it varies with individuals. And this is a must to be done. Personal hygiene, clipping the nails. Okay? These are parts of tahara that we must know. How to clean myself when going to the bathroom, the toilet. It may seem odd that, wow, with all the problems of the world and all the things that we need to learn, why would the deen have something like, well, if we believe that the deen, the religion, is complete and perfect, then it's really important to be outwardly, and in terms of badani, in terms of physically, to be pure. And when one goes to the bathroom, the toilet, one becomes impure through defecating or urination. Well, how does one clean oneself? What are the required etiquettes, or what are the disliked things, what are the required things, what are the sunnah things in relieving oneself. In the hadith in Sahih Muslim, it's a remarkable hadith. The hadith of Salman al-Farsi radiallahu anhu. Some of the Yahud of Medina came to Salman al-Farsi, and they said it in a mocking way. They said, your prophet, he teaches you everything, even how to relieve yourself. Even the manners of the bathroom, the toilet. They were saying this as a mocking way. And Salman radiallahu anhu, he says, yes. Yes, even that. The Prophet has taught us guidance for our whole life. Yes, even that. And he told us not to face the Qibla when urinating or defecating, not to use our right hand when cleaning ourselves, and not to use less than 3 stones in physically cleaning, for example, after defecation. So there's guidance here. And so there are a few things essential to learn. And so they say form a serious study group, and we went through that last week. So that we can cover learn the main obligations, so that we can walk the path of taqwa, because taqwa is fulfilling the commands of Allah, keeping away from the prohibitions. At the base level, that's what taqwa is. At the deep level, it's having this profound consciousness and mindfulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But that comes about only after the Sharia is observed, fulfilling the commands and keeping away from the prohibitions. Well, I have to know what Allah has commanded me with as fardul ayn, as a personal obligation. What has Allah prohibited me from as a personal obligation. And these are the things that we will be answerable for on the Day of Judgment. Now, if I don't know the rules of janazah, I don't know the rules of wiratha, inheritance, I don't know the rules of I don't know, some deeper level of usul al-fiqh, Islamic legal, that's okay. Because those are not personal obligations, they are not fardul ayn, they are fard al-kifaya, a collective obligation. As long as there are sufficient people in the ummah to fulfill these obligations, and the rest of the ummah is absolved. Okay. So they say do that, and they say ideally do that with a teacher who is qualified to do so. Because there are teachers today who aren't qualified to do so, and so for every 1 or 2 things they might say right, they say another 5 or 10 things wrong. And that doesn't quite work well. And if that is not possible, and it's not always possible, maybe in this country it's a bit difficult because we live so close together. You know, the UK it's a small island, right? And with 55 million of us, 56 million of us, we're right in each other's face. But if you live somewhere in Canada, for example, right, where your local mosque is like a 45 minutes drive down the freeway, and you're doing 60 miles an hour, and it still takes you 45 minutes, because that's how huge Canada is. Canada has certain, not rivers, what is the name I'm thinking of? Yeah, rivers. Is it rivers? They have certain rivers, some of which are bigger than England itself in size of the area. Okay, so it's a huge place, and so sometimes there you might find scholars very far away, and it's not practical to go there. Then in that case, for example, form a study group. They say with the ability. So they say in the absence of such a teacher, form a study circle based upon humility and the ability to say, I don't know. Okay? It's really important, I don't know. We'll ask someone who does. We'll wait until next week. We'll phone up someone or whatever, rather than just offer an opinion, because speaking about Allah's religion without knowledge is serious crime. Okay? It's the way that the religion gets distorted. And one more thing I'd add to it. If I've asked a qualified scholar and they have given me a ruling, then alhamdulillah, as long as I can relate that ruling correctly and not make Chinese whispers out of it, then let me be clear that, well, this is the ruling the scholar gave me who I asked. Meaning, you may have asked another scholar, and he may have given you a different ruling. It's okay. Well, we can follow the one that we have asked, it's not a problem. But if I just say, oh, well, this is what Islam says, and then you say, well, I asked another scholar who said something different. No, this is what Islam says, because the one I asked, that's what counts. Then that's going to be a problem. And of course when I mean scholar, I mean a scholar qualified in fiqh and fatwa. Okay? Not every scholar is qualified in fiqh and fatwa. Okay? You go to some Islamic university and you do 3 or 4 years Arabic, and then you join Kulliyatul Hadith, the College of Hadith. That doesn't make you qualified in giving religious rulings. When you studied Hadith, you didn't study fiqh and fatwa, or Sharia, for instance. So that's really important that, oh, well, I asked the scholar, or the fatwa that I read, or the mufti that I asked, or the sheikh that I spoke to, or the madhab that I'm attached to, it said this, bismillah. We've asked qualified scholarship and now we can act upon it. But we don't say this is what Allah said. It's not like pray, don't drink wine, which we can say clearly Allah said. Many of the details, it's the understanding of the scholar based upon the text of the Quran and the Sunnah. But there may be another way to read that same text with another rule. So it's always important to say, look, this is what the best that we know, or what we asked about, and this is what we follow. So that's the 5 pillars, and that really is the essential. Then the next bit, then the next one. Did I speak about marriage last week? How important it is to at least not just to know basic rules of marriage, but also the basic rules of divorce, especially divorce of men. Yeah, and one other thing I'll add, which I've mentioned quite a few times in khutbahs around London, which is, as men should know the rules of divorce, because they're the ones that normally pronounce divorce. Women go through nullifying the marriage through a court or through a judge, in our case a Sharia council. But let both men and women know the rights during divorce, that, well, what has Allah or the Prophet said about the children? Because if Allah said something about who gets the children, who is any human being to say opposite? And who am I as a Muslim to say, well, you know what, Allah, you can put your opinion over there. Look, if Allah or His Messenger, in this case the Hadith, the Prophet has said, look, the children go here or there or wherever, which is the Bab al-Hadana, the book of custody of children, after a marital problem, there we have chapters there with Hadith and verses. Then it's important as mothers and fathers that Allah and His Messenger, they have the best interest of our children than we do. Half of us, when we go through marriage and divorce, we use our children as pawns in a game to get the spouse back. That's how corrupt and soiled our hearts have been. So that's what I mean by learning religious knowledge and practice. Okay, the second advice: active dawah, active outreach. So the 2 sheikhs say, Hafidhahumullah, create an active outreach program, create an active dawah program designed to produce results. Reach out to the non-Muslim community through teaching, doing community work, and feeding others. At this stage, Muslims need to allay the fear of the dominant community wherever we are minorities, for obvious reasons. Okay? We are not a threat to anyone's safety or well-being. In fact, if we practice our teaching, we are a great blessing to the societies we live in. If we practice our teaching, we will be a great blessing to the society we live in. We should present Islam at the institutional level with the aim of educating and informing, not proselytizing, not preaching. The call to Islam is an invitation, and our communities need to prepare the banquet before inviting the guests. In our personal lives, we should discuss and share our religion with others. If there are existing organizations already engaged in dawah, do not reinvent the wheel. For instance, for students, there are already many Muslim student groups with dawah programs to support. If there are none, then be the catalyst who starts something. So the second thing is invite people to Islam. After gaining sound knowledge and practicing what we know, then invite others to the deen. And though sometimes the word da'wah can mean, often it means invitation, sometimes it can mean a summons, like a court summons, like a king might summon to a court. Because Islam has that jalaliyah in it, it has that majesticness in it. But generally, da'wah as invitation tends to, in this day and age, work better than da'wah as summons. Da'wah as summons maybe happens when you're kind of strong, okay, as a collective, and you're reaching out to maybe another strong collective. But da'wah as invitation, a beautiful invitation, tends to clearly work on an individual level. And the Quran says, ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموئذة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. Invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom, وموئذة الحسنة, and beautiful exhortation, beautiful preaching, and argue with them in ways which are better or best, gracious. And the Quran says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ. And who can be better in speech than the one who invites to Allah? Okay? And the Quran says, addressing the Prophet ﷺ, قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرًا أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. Say, this is my path, I do invite to it, I and those who follow me. So those who are followers of the Prophet ﷺ are given this instruction to invite to the path. Okay? And to invite someone to Islam is more rewardful and more beloved to Allah than the most precious of material possessions, the best of the red camels. But the two sheikhs say, look, create a dawah program, whether it's from the masjid, whether it's from the local Muslim center. Create an outreach program designed to produce results. And in the hadith of Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, the Prophet ﷺ said, "O Mu'adh, I am sending you to Yemen to give dawah to the people of the book. فَلْيَكُنْ أَوَّلَ مَا تَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَيْهِمْ شَهَادَةِ أَنْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ." So let the first thing you call them to be, let it be the shahada. If they accept that, then tell them that upon them is 5 prayers in a day and night. If they accept that, then tell them that zakat is taken from their rich and given to their poor. So he's telling Mu'adh, I'm sending you to Yemen. And you're going to who? You're not going to al-mushrikun, primarily you're going to Ahlul Kitab, the Jews and the Christians of Yemen. So however it takes to get from Medina to wherever he was going in Yemen, however long that journey is, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, the Prophet is telling him, he's first choosing Mu'adh because Mu'adh has knowledge of the deen. So he's sending someone who has knowledge of Islam. Not just anybody who's got a lot of emotion on Islam, who's got a lot of zeal and atifah, someone who's got knowledge. And secondly, he's telling Mu'adh, actually, I'm telling you who you're going to be calling to. So now you can think about the mentality of who you're calling to. You don't have to convince them about the proofs of God because these are Ahlul Kitab already believe in God. You don't have to even convince them about why there needs to be Nabuwwah, prophethood, because they believe in prophethood. The only problem is they stop with the prophet like Musa Islam or whoever and the various the patriarchs of Israel. They don't believe in the Messiah, Jesus Christ. They don't believe in the final prophet, the Prophet ﷺ. But they believe in the concept of elect. So you don't have to deal with all that as you have to if you were talking to an atheist, for example. So we learn some of the pillars that da'wah involves some basic ilm, some basic knowledge of the religion itself and of the community that we'll be reaching out to. Okay? And every prophet was sent with the lisanul qawm, the Quran says. The lisanul qawm, the language of the people. Shiekh Taqi Uthmani Hafidhullah Ta'ala, one of the great scholars of our time, he said, lisanul qawm, the language of the people, doesn't just mean the language, but language has with it, language expresses the aspirations of the people as well. The difficulties, their attitudes, their collective outlooks in life. So when the Quran is saying that we didn't send a prophet except with the lisanul qawm, meaning that except with not just the language of the people because they were from those people, but because they were from the people, they understood what the people were about. They would understood how to reach the hearts of the people. What would make these people annoyed? What's their attitude towards this, that and the other? If we don't know our people, it's really hard to give da'wah. We're almost giving da'wah to strangers and then it's just like pot luck. Roll of the dice. So it's really important that we kind of just understand who we are, where we are. This is not England of the 1950s, where there is some moral authority, and even government speaks in moral tones. This is England or Britain of the post-Thatcher years, when the government of business is nothing other than to be mediators between business and the country, right? And they don't talk about morals. This is not the England of the 1970s where the church still had some type of voice. And Christianity was still somewhere there, significant in the public sphere. This is England of the 2000 plus, where religion is being squeezed more and more and more into a smaller and smaller corner, day by day by day. Not just Islam. Look at practicing Christians and see, especially practicing Catholic Christians who have lots of rules, or quite a few rules like we do, and see how, especially moral-wise and family-wise, the kind of situations that they face. But the point being is, the two sheikhs say, form an outreach, a program. At this stage, and we need to allay the fears. Not in a bending over backwards way and say, oh, we're all peaceful, we're actually, the only difference between us and Buddhists, we have Arabic names. No, we have some strictness in our deen. Okay, there needs to be some izzah, because it's tawheed. It's to do with Allah and tawheed. But at the same time, this is a way of life in which gives goodness to people in this world and everlasting bliss to people in the hereafter. And some of the vices of this world, if we if we had the moral teachings of Islam, individual will be better for it. But here is an important point. Preaching through words only goes so far. Inviting through words, da'wah through words, only goes so far. Inviting through actions and a life lived in godliness and goodness and concern for people, that type of da'wah goes further than the eye can see and the voice can reach. And so this kind of thing that, Islam's got a perfect economic system and a perfect... People are not interested in that when they see majority Muslim countries flagging economically, okay, politically in a shambles. Oh, Islam is really good to women, we gave them inheritance rights, we gave them inheritance rights. Did we give them or did Allah give them? We gave them inheritance rights, 1400. Fine, but the non-Muslim wants to know, well, how do you Muslims today, you Muslim men, how do we treat our women folk now? Okay. And it's difficult to answer. They don't want to know how beautiful fasting is. It's nice telling them how beautiful fasting is, and we fast and we feel for the poor, or feel hungry and whatever. But it's difficult to tell them that when they'll come back and say, yeah, but how comes you Muslims, by statistics, consume more in Ramadan than... But you and I know that there are people out there who their fitrah is in a state of agitation. If they heard the truth in a good way, they would respond to it. If they saw the truth in action, they would respond to it. And even with the negative publicity about Islam, even with the rising, alarming a rate of homophobia in our society. And even with all our failures as Muslims, practicing Muslims, of how we don't do what Islam says, even then, people are still coming into Islam every day. And though conversion rates don't count, the number of Muslims are growing and growing, but that's less through conversions and that's more through birth rates. But conversion rates are still quite big and quite high. So we need to bear that in mind. And we need to allay fears that really, as Muslim minorities, some of the political issues don't concern us. It's not that they don't concern us, because every Muslim is connected to another Muslim worldwide. But how is it that for the next 4 months, we're all focusing on Palestine, even though more Muslims die in Bangladesh, and even more Muslims die in Central Africa. But we're focusing on Bangladesh or Palestine or Central Africa. And actually, the number of Muslim kids who are getting hooked on crack cocaine, some of who are dying on the operating table because they're not resuscitated on a Friday night because they've done something stupid and they've taken something. And that's happening and increasing day by day, right here in E11, right? In E17 down the road, okay? E15 that way and E7 down there. And it's not just on the old housing estates. It's happening in schools and colleges. And they are Muslims. It's not like they've rejected Allah and their Messenger, it's just that they're sinful at the moment. And this is happening for years and decades, and we haven't got a program for them. Our hope is that government, local government, will do something. Well, why aren't we doing something? What about, for instance, so I'm just saying that when we talk about being concerned for the Ummah, I find it kind of strange. Why does it have to be concerned for a person of the Ummah 1,000 miles away? When actually, I don't even know, let alone have concern for a tragic person in the Ummah, and actually he or she's on my doorstep. Violence against women, not just Muslim women, violence against women is endemic. Let's just talk about Muslim women. There are beatings and violence and domestic violence, which sometimes they have to leave the house. To go where? Many Muslim family structures are such that if she goes to her parents' house, the husband will come and, what right do you have to keep my wife? She goes to her brother's house, same thing. Husband comes and says, what right do you have to give back my wife? So quite often they go to shelters. Some of those shelters, I'm not saying majority, or I'm not in a position, but some of them with individuals there. Many of those women, some of those women who work there have a very negative opinion of Muslim men and Islam in general. They see it as the source of all of this domestic violence. So where are Muslim women's shelters? Until we kind of deal with the problem of the anger and the ego in us men. Because he also never lifted his hand against a woman or a slave. The only time he lifted his hand was for the had punishment or in jihad. Now that's a forgotten sunnah, right? That's a forgotten sunnah. But what I'm trying to say is, don't get me wrong when I say that, look, why are we focused on there? I'm just saying that we could be focused, but we need to also be focused on here. And this is part of our outreach program. But the point I was trying to make is, it's very difficult to generally convince people, look what Islam says, it gives the honor to the women, when they look at practice of Islam now. So if we got our practice right, not because we want to give dawah, because it's the right thing to do, and that's pleasing to Allah, then through our good action, people will see that, wow, this religion really offers a healing for the calamities and the tragedies within the human condition. It really has practical guidelines. Daughter is divorced. Before she was married, she was financially my responsibility, even if she was maybe working and bringing in her own money, but letter of the law, she was my financial responsibility. You might say, no, my father, I will contribute to the house and you don't need to. That's fine, but that's up to her. That was her. I give up my right of you spending on me. I want to spend on you out of my kindness. So it was the father's responsibility. But then she got married and it becomes the husband's responsibility. Even if she is more qualified than the husband or she earns more than the husband, it's all right. She can forego the right, but it's all right. But then they get divorced for whatever reason. So who does the right fall upon? Generally, the right falls back upon the father again. And if the father isn't around or incapable, the oldest brother, and so on and so forth. What I'm trying to say is the Sharia is very practical. It says that here is a situation, if it gets broken, these are the mechanisms to fix it. And that's why you have all these rules and these details, so that the thing that is broken, and because in our human lives, things can get broken. Relationships can break down. Calamities can happen. And so the Sharia is looking to be pragmatic, practical. And then they say, we should present Islam at an institutional level, not just like local dawah from the mosque or as an individual in good character and behavior, but institution. One of the things that it seems to me that our ulama need to work harder on, they're working hard, but working harder on, is that some of the aqeedah issues in our classical books of aqeedah, of theology, Islamic beliefs, istithna of iman, making exceptions in iman. Can I say ana mu'min insha'Allah, or is it ana mu'min because ana mu'min insha'Allah is shak, is doubt of your belief, and all these kind of issues which are significant and have a context, and some of that context has been quite merrily, alhamdulillah, resolved. So we need there are other issues that are facing the ummah today that are in some cases far greater than these type of issues. We're confronted with a science that is rapidly turning into a religion, scientism. He said that whatever you can touch, smell, measure, sense, that is real, and everything else is not real. Empiricism, from John Locke and Immanuel Kant and those empiricists onwards. And that has by and large become the belief of the time. Okay? And we face that challenge that, well, look, we have the theory of evolution, we have some this, we have that, and we don't have significant responses, or we have very simple black and white responses that just won't do. And many of our gifted young men and women are confronted with these blazing ideologies and ideas from science, so much grounded in raw data, in experimentation, in physical results. But some of the extrapolations, some of the ideas that come out of it being proposed, one or two of them clash with clear-cut verses of the Quran. And many young Muslims are presented with a choice. It's either what you can see and touch and measure, or this 1400-year-old book. And it's enough of a doubt. And there isn't a strong response. So we need to respond to the challenges of the time in our dawah. Okay. And then the other thing is, if there are existing organisations, don't reinvent the wheel, and that just comes back down to a lot of it. That comes back down to ego. See, I want to do dawah, but it has to be done my way. Okay. See, because I know better. And then quite often it becomes a bit of a competition. So brother, don't go to him. You don't know what he does behind you. Come with us, our group. Okay? If you come with our group, I'll give you 50% of the books. If you're not part of our group, then you have to pay full whack. But we're all brothers. And now we have these, in our little group of dawah, we've got these nice big group, okay? Here is a person in our group, right? He prays most of the time, but sometimes he misses prayer. He generally isn't very good to his parents. And he swears a lot. Then there is someone in the other group, never misses a prayer. He is an angel to his parents. And alhamdulillah, Allah's given him tawfiq with his tongue. Just speaks good. And you know what? This brother is more beloved, more loved by me, and I'm more loyal to him than that brother. Even though in terms of taqwa, piety, that brother is far closer to Allah than this brother. But the reason why I like this brother more is because he's in my group. So we judge on groups. Okay? And we backbite on groups. Rather it should be, look, you know, if this was a dawah group and we're, you know, I've been in this area, I was raised in this area, and 1984 was when I really started giving dawah in this area. And by that time I was down the local college of this area, Wilton Forest College, and we were going up and down the youth centres and places like here, Leighton Youth Centre, and then down in Leighton, up down to Tom Hood and Lake House and all those schools, giving dawah. But let's just say 20 years later, there's another dawah group. Better funded, more people, more professional. Then I should think, well, I was here first. Maybe out of adab you should have come to me and said, look, we're also doing dawah, can we work together since you've been here? That would have been nice, but let's say it didn't happen. But clearly now, mashallah, Allah's blessed. They've got all the skills, the management, the this and the other, tawfiq, and many people are becoming Muslims in my little group, Muslim once every 2 years. Then if it's just about dawah, why don't I say, brother, any way that I can be of service to you in the cause of Allah? And we don't have to work under, I can get rid of the name, the Abu Aaliyah Dawah group, because it was never about Abu Aaliyah. Ud'u ila sabili rabbi. Invite to the way of your Lord, not the way of your party. Okay? Inviting to Allah. Dawah ila Allah, not dawah ila Hizb or Jam'iyyah. But that requires some dedication of the heart, some ikhlas of the heart. Okay? Mosques are different. You have to have mosques. Okay? You can't just have one mosque and then everyone goes to that one mosque. But dawah, so this is what they mean. Don't reinvent the wheel. And there are some places, like in universities, where there are Islamic students' union have all these student groups. And since the early 60s, we've had a body of Islamic group, the Islamic, what's the word I'm looking for? Islamic Society, Barakallahu Fikum. I was thinking of the American one, which is, what is it? Yeah, the MSA, that's right, yeah, the Muslim Students Association. So we have ISOCs, Islamic Societies. Okay, so when we're in university, it's already there. Okay, what we need to do in universities is make sure we don't bring our own group elements in. Okay, I'm Salafi, I'm Ashari, I'm Maturidi in Aqeedah, I'm Hanafi in Fiqh, Hanbali in Fiqh, or Ahl Hadith, Ahlul Hadith. I'm a Sufi, I'm not a Sufi. I'm political Islam, apolitical Islam. Whatever. But in universities, all it is making sure we have a prayer room, an inspiring talk now and again, because many of the people, young Muslims, men and women, when they get to university, it is freedom. And in the days where you used to get the good grant, it was even more freedom. And there are so many, for many young Muslims, the freedom and the space to be themselves. They've never experienced it before, and it's very intoxicating. Some people, they're off the deen, but they get into 18, 19, and they're becoming a bit more aware, and they might just want to pop into the Islamic society. But they don't want to see two groups of Muslims fighting, or two manahij, methodologies. Even if one is orthodox, then more orthodox than the other. Why it should just be, the Islamic society should just be getting people to pray, a place of refuge where they can come from the fitnas of what is around them, and it's a lot of fitnas. And all of the heavy stuff can happen outside of the universities. Come on, bro, come to the Shiekh, he's really good. Come and study with this, that's fine. But in the university, keep it plain and simple so that everybody can benefit. There needs to be an understanding of the environment that we're doing da'wah in. And as many of our ulama say, we'll be asked about what we do. But bil jumla, the best form of da'wah is through our character, through just our behavior. When they see honesty, justice, truthfulness, integrity, compassion, concern, godliness, these traits in a human being are far impact the soul. They impact the soul far more greatly than any discursive talk that I could do, explanation of Islam, even though verbal explanation of Islam must be given. Verbal explanations of Islam must be given. So that's the second. What time is Isha? 9:45. What time? So the line is in about 5 to 6 minutes. So I think we'll stop there, because that is important. So that was the second one. After ilm is form an active outreach program, whether from this masjid, but definitely as individuals. And it's true, not everyone can speak. I can believe and understand something, but I can't express it properly. That's fine, we're not going to be held responsible for that which is beyond us. But I can express my beliefs and my deen through my actions and my conduct. Which is why it's really important to, I'll end with this hadith before leaving it open. إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. The Prophet ﷺ said, I have, and they say إِنَّمَا, okay, يُفِيدُ الْحَسْرِ. Okay, the word إِنَّمَا in Arabic language and Quranic language as well, it's like saying, it's not indeed, but it's like saying, this is the only reason. إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I have only been sent to perfect noble character, noble manners. Of course, manners with Allah first, manners with the Prophet, manners with the Prophets. And if we can begin to put that at the forefront of our change and transformation, then Allah's tawfiq will come showering down upon us, even more abundantly. And Allah knows best. Now, 5 odd minutes for any questions. I don't know if there are sisters there, maybe they can write it down in inshallah. Any questions or any comments, additions? Practically, da'wah from this masjid, the masjid does the meet your Muslim neighbours, and there is some interfaith rub-ins with the local church or churches. One of the best da'wahs we can do is make sure that at least the regular people who come to the congregation, if not nearly everybody in the area of the masjid, making sure we don't park our cars in the wrong place. And when Isha used to be quite late, even now it's late, when we come out of the masjid, making sure that our voices are kept low, and so that we're generally civil and not a nuisance in the wrong hours of the night. So that if we can't show them the beauty of Islam, we can keep our own personal harms away from them. So we don't give them any excuse, because Iblis likes to take these excuses and he makes a deal out of them. Okay. Especially on Jummah times. That's important. There are some places in the wider East London area in which the houses have off-street parking. You can park in your houses. And obviously if you park, you've got a space in your house. in front of your house to park, it means that no other car can park on the off-street parking because it will block the access to the car. And unfortunately, in Jummah time, so many times one has to make an announcement, please, can registration XYZ move their car because it's parked in someone's driveway. Why, maybe it's a young person, fine, they don't know much of deen, but why does this have to be regularly announced for? Why does it have to be, do I have to quote a hadith, or does the imam have to quote a hadith to justify it? Or doesn't common sense tell you that actually, look, this is a driveway of someone, they may want to get their car out when I'm at Jummah, and they're a right, hukuk. But that comes when we kind of very compartmentalize Islam, and we kind of lost the whole picture, the bigger picture. And it goes without saying, opposition as well. The immediate opposition is tremendous. How do we un-ISIS-fy our image? Right? It's difficult, but I suppose that's where human relationships come in. So many Muslims in East London and non-Muslims in East London I know who say, well, no, I don't think Muslims can all be like that because I know Muslims. That's very helpful. Okay, we may not have told them about Allah, Rasul, but here we've neutralized some possible hostility. Neutralization is something. I saw a brother wear a t-shirt, okay, and he said he got it from the States when he went there. I am a Muslim, don't panic. And it's a good way to break the ice, because someone might laugh and someone, it opens. I'm not saying every way is imaginative, but we need some kind of imaginative ways. I don't know who's best. Any questions? If not, then we begin to round it up, inshallah. I'll throw a question just to, we can have a question and answer session, then I can say next week, and we had a question and answer session. It's like collecting on Laylatul Qadr night. Who's going to be the 10,000 mark comes, and who's going to give 10,000? It's like, it's a bit difficult to put your hand up. You've got less than 10,000 in your pocket and bank account. Any comments, any ideas?
So the thing is everybody got their own ideas on their own individual field. Wherever we were, I found myself that we are the Muslim, damaging ourselves by our own actions. Everywhere, it's even the workplace, our images is we're damaging. It's the way we behave, the way we talk, the way we use in our toilets. Is the horrible that is, and we make it because in my place they gave us 2 toilets for that with the watering system, everything. But if I go there, I found always issues everywhere. It's more mess than the other one. So that means we are giving them a bad impression.
It's true. Yeah, we can be our own worst enemies. There is always there's always positive aspects to us as well. But yeah, it's true. We can be. But and even though I'm very much like you, very critical, we also need to be very pragmatic as well. Okay, so that's a problem. How do we overcome that? It's really important to get each other to realize we must be people of khidmah. So now it's flooded, and I didn't flood it, I didn't mess it, I was very careful. But let me get the mop and mop it up. And then let me go and tell the Muslims, you know what, I mopped it up today, I don't want to be doing that every day. So if you flooded it, can you just clean it? Okay, because not because it's haram or whatever, but because it gives a really nasty impression, and it's unclean, and so it's coming to some serious Sharia problem anyway. And yeah, absolutely. But this is it. If we're living just for dunya and just for ourselves, then we're really not careful. Why would I be concerned of what image do I portray to the Prophet ﷺ's image, the image of Islam and the deen of Allah? But if I have a connection to Islam means something, then I'll be more careful how I portray the deen. So it's all about self-respect as well. And then knowing, that it's not just about talk, because some people think, oh, as long as I give dawah, No, but dawah through actions is quite,
Of course.
it is very powerful.
That's
So
actually
yeah,
the most.
so these things are small things, but really do make a big difference. Really do make a big difference. We should take care of that, even in mosques as well. Even in mosques.
You know, you said it should be just emotion. It should be the practical environment. So one of my colleagues was saying that some of the Muslim, he was in the tube, and then one of the Muslim, mashallah, he was reading Quran a bit louder, and they actually got worried. They actually got off the carriageway, and
Yeah.
I think probably in that situation we should have been more pragmatic.
Yeah, but, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that. Sometimes a Muslim is going to, out of love and dhikr of Allah, say some dhikr loudly. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah. Try not to make it Allah Akbar, because Allah Akbar, that kind of loud Allah Akbar, is associated with a final ending. And we need to kind of be careful of those type of things. Yeah, absolutely. And simple things like I've said this before. I had two students who used to travel to another Shiekh in Manchester, and study with me during the week and study with another Shiekh in Manchester, and they would come down through on the National Express. And one day they were talking to themselves back on the coach home that, what was that qaida that the Sheikh told me about? Qaida means a principle, a foundational rule in Islam. Okay? And then what happened was, by the time they got to Victoria Coach Station, they were met by two bobbies, two policemen, okay, who said that we heard that you were discussing Al-Qaeda, and they're like looking at each other thinking, these are they have no interest in politics, these people, okay, at that age they were very young. Anyway, for the life of them, they couldn't think what was going on. And then it clicked to one of them that we mentioned, Qaeda, and he said, no, and then he tried to explain, and they said, oh, thank you very much. And one of them said, by the way, our young children, especially if they're non-Arabs, when they go to religious school after school in the mosque, they learn Arabic, ABC of Arabic, and quite often the book they use is called Qaida. Qaida means, a basic principle book on learning ABC. So, don't get too worried. So, yes, so we need to be a little bit, but, if someone is doing that Quran, it's a little bit excusable, but yeah, maybe they should be a little bit, aware. Yeah, aware. Our personal piety shouldn't cause a bigger societal problem. Personal piety, especially if it's not fun, should always be in context of, societal issues. Okay. As much as we can. Not because why? Because we don't want something which is recommended to be a barrier to push people away from things which are obligatory for them. Tawheed, Iman, so on and so forth. If someone says, if I knew that going to a non-Muslim and giving them dawah and they would be put off by a hat, then I don't say, well, stuff him. I'm not going to give him dawah. I'm not going to take off this hat, because the hat is not an obligation to wear. Okay. Okay, and certainly outside of prayer, it's even, is even more flexible. So I just take off my hat, and then if that's the thing, if that is the thing. But of course, if they say, well, no, you have a drink with me and whatnot, then there's a clear halal haram there. And then I'd have to work around that. Okay, but certain things, so, alhamdulillah. And then that goes back down to, are we portraying Islam as an Arab thing or as an Asian thing? Because why should I invite a white Caucasian to an Arab or an Asian thing? Why is Arabness or Asianness any better than Britishness or Englishness? And so I need to kind of be careful on that. And Allah knows best. Prayer time, inshallah.